Uncle Doug.
Uncle Dan.
You know, I don't know if you know this about me. I don't believe in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
I know everything about you.
Oh.
Yeah. You are a son of perdition.
I'm a son of tradition.
Isn't that the funniest thing about the sons of perdition is that you have to know it's literally true and still turn your back on it?
Right.
Who would do that?
Nobody.
Right.
Literally, no. There are no sons of perdition. Nobody is in outer darkness. We'll talk about that. I think we talked about that.
We did once. We talked about what
dumbest thing ever.
Dumbest thing ever. I don't believe in God. Y'all don't believe in God.
Yeah.
But there are some accoutrements, some things that are attendant to this non-belief.
It's a spectrum.
It's a lack of a belief. It's not even a belief that something doesn't exist. It's just a lack of a belief that something does.
Right.
That's a distinction I think is important.
At its purest form, yes, that's what it is.
Right. Anywho, Mark, you wanted to have a discussion about that fact.
I sure did. So let me tell you where this came from. So this is going to be one of our, I think, hopefully free form and conversational how-tos.
Uh-oh.
So let me tell you how this came about. So I was having a long chat with a listener who, by the way, friends, is also a generous supporter.
Oh, nice.
Before Thanksgiving. He's a super nice guy. Was really nervous about going home for Thanksgiving to the small town he comes from, where he grew up in a pretty high demand religion. And he knows who he is. I'm not going to say his name.
Everybody knows who they are.
But he had lots of family and church shit to deal with as a newly self-realized atheist.
Right.
And among the very practical fears and concerns he had about his extended family and, sense of rejection and shunning and all the difficult conversations, there was a really interesting thread that kept popping up in our conversation.
Yeah.
And he's a super bright guy with a huge heart, and he's all those things. But it was like he was kind of asking me if certain thoughts and ideas were squaring with some sort of atheist orthodoxy.
Ah.
You know what I mean? So
am I atheisting right?
Am I atheisting right? And I thought that was kind of interesting, and it led me down this, this kind of path of since, we know we have a lot of listeners that have long been in the skeptical world and the atheist world, but we have a lot of people that are new to it. So that and some things I've been, thinking about recently had me wanting to have a dialogue about how to basically atheist. So how to be an agnostic or skepticalize. But I think for the purposes of this conversation, let's just cover all the shades under the term atheist, or we'll be here all night, right?
Okay, sure.
We know all of our friends and our children out there in the big skeptical rainbow are on whatever journey they're on, but we're just going to use the word atheist for the term, the term in this discussion.
I do like that because I will say this. A lot of people have this worry that that word is scary to a lot of people.
Totally.
And they don't want to use it because they feel like there's a commitment to that word or whatever.
Yeah.
And I like to take the sting off of it because it's not a big scary word. It just means you don't believe a thing.
That's right. Fine. And if you're more comfortable calling yourself an agnostic, that's great.
That's fine. Nobody's going to, well, somebody might yell at you, but it won't be us.
Right. We're not going to yell at you about it. So, and that's going to be part of this discussion. So anyway, as I mentioned to our friend and listener over drinks, there is no atheist pope, right?
We got to get us one of those.
We should totally get us. We couldn't be worse than the fucking Catholic one. But the good and the sometimes bad of our community is that we don't really recognize, and in fact, we kind of shun centralized authority because many of us are former religionists, and we're suspicious of centralized.
Well, not
authority.
only that, but like, who the fuck are you?
Right.
I mean, in a religious context, somebody can claim that they have divine mandate to be in authority or whatever.
Right. Exactly right.
But in our little group, nobody's any. There are some better thinkers than others.
Right. So for our conversation, I want to go from the micro to the macro about what atheist orthodoxy is, even if such a thing exists.
So bacteria. All atheists.
That's right.
None of them believe in a god.
Bacteria to the Brontosaurus.
It's the Brachiosaurus. Thank you very much.
The Brontosaurus is my theory. So let me pose a few questions to start the conversation. So we're recording in the month of our Lord December,
Yes.
right?
I don't think that's actually how you refer to that, but that's
It is now.
Yes.
So that's part of atheist orthodoxy.
Yes.
So here's a question. Is it okay for atheists to listen to Christmas music? And furthermore, how great a sin is it against the great nothing in the sky for a self-described atheist to put up a tree, exchange presents, etc., etc.?
Well,
It's fine if you listen to it, but you can't like it.
I mean, I think it depends on what the Christmas music is. If it's joy to the world, you're in sketchy water.
Yeah.
It's all Jesus-y and stuff. But if it is the Mariah Carey song, then you should shoot yourself in the face because that song is torture.
I mean, of course it's okay. I think, I mean, it's Christmas in our, this is going a little bit off the track, but Christmas in our culture nowadays isn't really that religious to begin with.
Right.
It's
right.
mostly about buying presents and drinking, both of which you should definitely do. But no, I think it's fine. That's part of being an atheist, is not having to be offended or be turned off by something. Oh, you kind of get to do what you want, no?
Yeah, I mean, it's you're not forced to conform to anything anymore. If you really free yourself from those particular mindsets and an enforced kind of recognition of the calendar, you can kind of do what you want. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. There's no, as you say, there's no orthodoxy here. There's
Right.
no wrong, there's no right way to do it. You're not sinning against anybody except you're possibly yourself. So,
Right.
like, your sensibility is what needs to drive this thing. If you loved Christmas growing up, if the tree was your favorite thing, if giving presents feels great to you, great.
Yeah.
There's no problem there.
no, and we'll get to
I
this
know
later.
atheists who have nativity scenes out on their mantle
Yeah.
because they like the art.
We'll get to it later about in the discussion, but there are people who will tell you that is a violation of atheist orthodoxy. Christmas is when we can. But I don't think you should listen to them. I think, personally, I hate Christmas. I hate Christmas music. Odd side note, the only Christmas song I ever really liked, because the way my brain works is I don't really listen to lyrics, was Baby It's Cold Outside. It's kind of jazzy and cool. It's pretty.
It's a great song.
You and Bill Cosby both love that song.
And I'm like, oh no, fuck, really? It's awful. But, our friends, Tom and Cecil on the Cognitive Dissonance podcast, Cecil loves Christmas music and plays it all December.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, you're going to be hearing these myths that you have rejected. You're going to be hearing all this stuff, all this praise of the Lord and all of this, Jesus was great and blah, blah, blah. And if you can sort of let that just be its own thing and not be bothered by it, great. If your friends are like, turn this shit off, maybe we'll save it till your shower time, because a lot of us don't like Christmas music.
Yeah, and,
Right.
and it can be very triggering for people who escaped a religious background because it was such an oppressive, it's the December's a tough month. You're forced to be with your family. You're forced to go to church.
Oh, yeah.
And Christmas music can be wrapped into that. So some people, it is very triggering.
Yeah, for me and Doug were raised in a very violent household and Christmas was, if something was going to explode in the house, it was always going to be when we were stuck together during Christmas in our shitty house in the winter. So
How you celebrate.
I'm not in favor of Christmas, but I don't.
It's why to this day on Christmas Eve we all get together and wrestle.
That's right. We call it wassailing and wrestling.
I just want to put a marker down here. We'll probably come back to this over and over through this discussion. But I personally, and this is just me, I don't like the term atheist orthodoxy. Mm-hmm. I think it's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
And one thing, apropos of what we were just talking about, the way I always kind of like to think about it is it's like Santa Claus. There is no hierarchy or community or organization for people who don't believe in Santa Claus.
Right.
You cast off a belief, and that no longer is part of your life. Now, we seek community because religion is so prominent in our culture and our histories, but the idea that there is a hierarchy or a clergy or a set of rules really rankles me personally.
It's like saying that not collecting stamps is a hobby.
Right.
Right.
Right. And yes, that is true philosophically, but I think, and we'll continue to talk about this, but I think that part of what's lacking for a lot of people in the skeptical community is community.
Right.
Right. And
And get it how you can get it.
Get it how you can get it. So look,
Yeah.
if you like Christmas, if you like presents, I know plenty of atheists who put up a fucking tree because it's a holiday that, as we all know, predates Christianity. It was in Northern Europe where these traditions come from. It was the darkest fucking time of the year. It was cold as fuck. So people got together and had a feast and had lights so that it wouldn't kill themselves.
Right. And
The shortest day of the year is worth celebrating because you got past it.
Right. Well, and that's and it's a good time to get together and all lift each other's spirits. And that's what it's about. And frankly, the war on Christmas, the first shots were fired by Christmas. It's a war
By
on
Christians.
Saturnalia.
Right.
It's a war on the other on the pagan rituals.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. So
there's a
if you
war-
want to put up a tree,
It's not a war, it's a trophy of war.
Right.
well, yeah.
Right? They took it.
And if you want to put up a tree, you're just reclaiming Saturnalia for yourself.
Do you guys say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays?
I will only say Merry Christmas if someone says it to me.
And do you say Merry Christmas back?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I do too.
I generally don't volunteer it.
Or sometimes I do a you too.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Same to you.
So here's the thing. It's somebody being nice to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's somebody wishing a good thing to you. Even it's not necessarily their problem that you don't celebrate it.
Right.
Right? If
Well-
someone said Happy Hanukkah to me, I wouldn't be like, what the fuck are you saying to me?
Right.
How
Now-
dare you assume I'm Jewish?
No, I have had someone say to me when I worked in a retail environment, someone said, well, I don't say happy holidays. I say Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas.
Fine.
And at that moment, I was like, if I wasn't working at the time, I would have 100% been like, and happy holidays to you.
Yeah.
But because she was very clearly giving a fuck you to anyone who didn't follow her Jesus.
Right. Then let her be the dick about it.
And she is being, yeah, that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
Let them be the dicks. You don't have to be a dick. You can just enjoy your life.
Yeah. Exactly right.
And I think that's what this whole, I have a suspicion that this entire segment is going to be about enjoying your fucking life.
Yes.
It's basically skepticism and atheism is a pathway to you do you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, there, as we'll discuss, there are times when getting up on your hind legs and being defensive or defending yourself or saying something back is totally appropriate.
Yeah.
But is it just the nice cashier that you don't know at the store who's wishing a happy something towards you?
Right.
I don't think that's the moment.
Well, and plus, one of the great things about being an atheist is we don't have any sacred cows.
Right.
You can't say anything. You can say things that I find to be distasteful or cruel or whatever, but you can't offend me because I don't have a sacred cow. There's nothing you can say like Christopher Hitchens was a this or that or
Right.
I mean,
I don't care.
I'm
Whatever, dude.
I'm offendable in the sense of like, if you're trying to be a dick to me,
Exactly.
I'm going to be offended. If you're saying something specifically to hurt my feelings, I'm going to be offended.
yeah. But there's nothing that you can say that.
But you
that
can't say anything.
triggers something in me that's what I mean.
You can't say anything about atheism.
Exactly.
Like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you see this online quite a bit where, and this there's definitely a truth to this where people are like, there's so much misogyny and racism and et cetera, in atheism, I just can't stand it. Yes, there is, and we'll talk in a minute about maybe where some of that comes from, but I'll put us up against the Catholics any day.
Oh, yeah.
I'll put us up against
The Mormons,
maybe not the
Christians.
Unitarians,
maybe.
but
They got some too, though.
But I think it's important to draw a line between misogyny and racism in atheism and the fact that there are misogynists and racists who are atheists.
right.
Right, because there is no doctrine.
Right.
There's no, you can be a dick and also not believe in God.
They can't. Nobody can say, but your book says
Exactly.
What book? Hitchens? That was his book. That's
his
not my book.
You can't hold me to any of that stuff. And if you want to be a misogynist and a racist, don't hide behind your atheism.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, and then this kind of leads us to a greater question, which is, when I was last week, I did a segment on Mother Teresa, and I leaned very heavily on Mr. Christopher Hitchens' book about the subject, the missionary position, and he wrote something really kind of beautiful in the foreword that I want to bring up to guide the discussion a little bit, and it is this. Speaking about his book on Teresa. This is a small episode in an unending argument between those who are right, those who know they are right, and therefore claim the mandate of heaven, and those who suspect the human race has nothing but the poor candle of reason by which to light its way. So that struck me as an important way to begin to distinguish what a skeptical life is, and what we, in our little half-assed sophomoric way, do here, which is that we try to light a little candle and push back the darkness a little bit.
Right.
And I think we should see others doing the same as comrades in a common cause. And as a good share of the feedback we get here at the show from email and Twitter, etc., is disconnected or lonely ex-religionists who've lost community and are searching for some. So the last question that I want to ask about this is about demanding purity to our own causes and our own particular intellectual strain of atheism from within the skeptical community. And should we demand purity? And if so, how much?
Yeah, it's such a weird question to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it because there are people who have purity tests for atheism.
Totally.
There are people out there who are, and even some people who are big in the atheist movement, and who are fighting these fights, and they're important fights to fight, who demand a certain amount of purity in how someone practices their life,
and
their atheism.
They may be the sort of people that would insist that you have to leave Christmas behind with Santa Claus.
Yeah, or that you should never set foot in a church because your presence there is somehow granting some sort of assent to their practices,
Perpetuating their power or some such.
or even we have said don't give money to the Salvation Army because they're gay-hating assholes.
Yeah.
But, also they do give, they have shelters.
Yes, exactly right.
That are kind to people that need help.
I think, in my opinion, part of what happens when you become a skeptic, when you leave religion and start to, when you ring that bell, and you start to see that maybe the truth claims of whatever you came from are shoddy, or you read that first Bertrand Russell book, or whatever it is that you begin the journey out. To me, in my experience, that was going when television went from black and white to color, right? And so you begin to see this whole new beautiful universe, and frightening maybe, laying out in front of you, but take that as a literal suggestion that the world is no longer black and fucking white.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes, you probably shouldn't go sit in a church pew because your butt is sitting in a seat where it probably shouldn't be sitting for a myriad of reasons. However, if you love your family and you want to go to your niece's christening, if you want to go to a Christmas service and,
Hear the music? Yeah, I mean, there's a professional choir that you want to go and listen to, and they're going to be free if you go to this church.
And a space where the sound will be gorgeous. And
it's a beautiful building, and fuck, go.
That's living life in color.
When I am on vacation in Europe,
right,
pretty much every Sunday I go to church because it's a good time to see a cathedral that might charge you to go in for free.
€1, yeah.
Yeah, or whatever. Like for instance, pro tip here. If you go to London and if you know about it, if you find out when it is, there is a chapel inside the Tower of London that has service every Sunday.
Yeah.
And if you go skip the line,
don't pay the £20 to get in.
Don't pay the £20 to get in. Say to the guard, I'm going to church at St. Peter at Vincula.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be like, okay, go in. Dress nice. And then you've got free entry into the tower.
Wear your Beefeater outfit, your Sunday Beefeater.
Yeah, do your best Yeoman Warder impression.
No, I'm going to get there and say I'm here for the service of Saint Dracula. I forgot how to say it.
Right. No. Well, there's that too.
Well, and I would take kind of a hard line, weirdly, on the purity kind of testing for people, because as we've talked about on the show, we make fun of all kinds of the branches that people land on as they're falling out of the tree of religion.
Right.
Whether that's Deepak Chopra or other places of woo, that people as their journey is a journey. And you're going to find stations on your way, and we're all in those different places. What right does anyone have to demand purity of anyone else? On what authority? You know what I mean? Like just because part of everything that we're about here is that people can change their minds and become enlightened.
Right. As much as I don't think I ever had the gene for belief, that wasn't the circumstances in which I popped into the world.
Right.
I popped into the world into an intensely religious community and family.
Yeah.
Right. And so my journey out was jagged and weird, and I had a big world music collection for a while, and I thought I was, I'm not gay, I'm complicated. I'm not the perfected being you see before you.
Right.
Is not what I always was. So, in talking about purity, there's this really beautiful quote that I think is a great way that I kind of think of when I'm engaging with someone to see if I can make common cause with them, which is when James Baldwin famously said, "We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist."
Right.
So that to me is the litmus test. This is why I'm not going to debate somebody who thinks all gay people should be dead.
Right.
But if you don't believe that, if you believe I have a right to exist and you don't wish violence upon me, we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right? And we can probably agree on a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And if we walk away having disagreed respectfully, shake hands and call it a day. It's great. That's all fine.
I mean, if someone, like you said, is trying to convince me that all homosexuals are evil, there's not a lot of common ground there.
Right.
But if someone's trying to get me to read the Celestine prophecy, on 95% of everything we'll probably agree.
Right.
And we should, right? Because that person...
if the person has the Celestine prophecy, I'll bet it's lower than 95. If someone says everything happens for a reason, I'm instantly suspicious.
And we should be clear that one of what we're not suggesting here is that you have to try to find common ground with everybody that you meet that disagrees with you or anything like that. If they're coming at you with the fountainhead or whatever and you're just not up for it, you can just wave them off and walk on. But the point is, there's no right way to you don't have to shun the rest of the world, the believing world. And you don't have to yell. You also don't have to yell your atheism from the mountaintops.
No,
you may feel the urge to do it. Lord knows I did when I first realized that God was fake. I was like, "Holy shit! I want to tell everybody."
It's a journey.
They
right?
don't respond well. They don't like that.
It is a journey, and so I think when you, especially for very passionate, if you're young and very passionate,
Yeah.
and you realize that you have been living a lie and everyone around you has been living this lie, it's very hard not to, like in some Invasion of the Body Snatchers thing, run around, it's all fake, it's all fake,
Yeah.
But, and I think anger and passion are part of that journey. Yeah. And I don't want to shame anybody for that and tell them they're not, I'm fucking pissed off half the time still. But I'm too tired to be that mad. I'm too old to be that mad all the time.
That's what age does for you.
but there's also another element to it where you mentioned Christopher Hitchens a minute ago, and he's a very good example of someone who said some incredibly profound and articulate and well thought out things about atheism, but had some other things in his personal life and his belief system that I would quibble with.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was
a war hawk.
He was a war hawk, and he was a drunk, and I'm not shaming. I'm just saying part of being an atheist is you evaluate things skeptically, whether they stand on their own.
Yeah,
It doesn't
by
have
their
to-
merit.
It doesn't have to come from a perfect vessel. That's not our thing.
Right.
Like
yeah, exactly.
truth can come from very imperfect sources.
Right. We're constantly being blamed for like, oh, you guys think you're right about everything. You think you're right about everything.
Right.
The inverse is true.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. As somebody, let's take the Mormon example here. There's the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Pearl of Great Price, the Doctrine and Covenants, like the 4 books of Mormon canon.
Right.
Somebody who thinks all the answers to the life, the universe, and everything are in 4 fucking books, telling me that I think I'm right about everything, that I have all the answers, is an insane thing to say.
Yeah, what a crazed proposition that is.
Right.
This notion that it's so arrogant of atheists to think they know everything, and they're just so smug about it. What who are you talking to?
Right.
Have you looked in a mirror ever?
Projection much.
Right.
I don't know many atheists. I think there's a few atheists who are, anti-theists who absolutely insist that there is no possibility that God exists.
Right.
I think the vast majority of people I know in the community begin their philosophical underpinnings with, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I don't have proof.
We know some things.
It seems really damn unlikely, but we don't know.
It is de minimisly unlikely. But proof could occur, right? Evidence could present itself.
Yeah, and if evidence presents itself, most atheists and agnostics say, I'll look at it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I will definitely.
Okay.
Now, does that mean? And here's the thing that blows a lot of believers' minds. I'll look at any evidence they want that they think supports the notion of their God, even if they were to show me a person descending from the sky, who with lightning bolts coming out of their fingers, would I believe that God was worthy of my worship? That would take a lot more convincing.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll believe step by step. Okay, well, I now believe that someone can descend from the sky with lightning bolts. That's pretty amazing. What the fuck is that?
Well,
right.
But
the question isn't, will I convert back now? The question is, what is that?
what's up with that guy?
And what am I seeing here?
That's awesome. How'd you do that?
Can I do that?
Well, and if I hear voices now in my current incarnation of myself, if I hear voices that no one else hears, I'm going to go see a doctor, not a priest. And that's because there is probably something clinically wrong with my complex brain.
Right.
Not necessarily that all of this other craziness is all of a sudden true against all odds.
Right. So I completely agree, and I think it's a good point to say, yes, here's this guy's got an amazing card trick.
Right.
But do I feel like he is deserving of being worshipped by all humanity as the creator? I mean, the evidence would have to be pretty astounding.
Right.
Right. It is an extraordinary claim. Yeah,
I keep reading those guys' book, and even if their God did show up, I wouldn't worship him. He might kill me.
It gets worse with every reading.
Yeah.
And the proposition in the book seems sillier and sillier with every reading.
Or at least I'd have some questions for that guy.
And it's like Christopher Hitchens says, even if you were to prove the virgin birth, all of your work about whether or not Jesus is divine and requires worship is still ahead of you. Like these things don't simply follow one after the other.
Right.
This is a house of cards of your making. You can't make me follow it.
Yeah, and so there's something else about kind of the purity universe that it is worth considering. And yes, I call myself an atheist, but my atheism is coupled completely with another precept, which is called humanism. Right? That it is my atheism is not super coldly scientific. All those things contribute to it, but it is if we have this one life, I think we should be less shitty to each other, and I think we should try to be a little bit more inclusive. And to me, part of that is we're talking about Hitchens. There's other kind of celebrated or well-known atheist authors like Richard Dawkins and what was mentioned before, Bertrand Russell, and there's important stuff in all of that, and there's really good information in all of that stuff if you want to live a skeptical life. But I kind of want to talk about, again, some of the feedback we get being from young people who are starting their journey, like teenagers, people in their 20s, and they may not have read. I'm talking to our advanced atheist brothers and sisters out there. If they have not read what you have read, don't be a dick about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Don't be a dick about it.
They just haven't read it yet. And there's another group of people that we get feedback from, which are people beginning their journey in their 40s and 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Especially don't be shitty to them.
Yeah.
Don't be shitty to the kids, but don't be shitty to these older people, because can you imagine the breadth and depth of unwinding and beginning the journey they have to do at this point in their lives?
Yeah.
If you engage somebody online or in the flesh who has not read what you've read, don't be a dick about it. suggest that maybe they would enjoy to read this thing,
Right.
and it would be helpful.
So many of us are fleeing hierarchies where we were judged and trolled and purity distilled.
yeah,
The people leaving religion in their 50s and 60s admire the bravery
yeah,
to do that.
Yeah.
And and there's probably a lot of embarrassment that goes along with realizing how much time you've wasted. I certainly believe that. I mean, I certainly felt that myself.
Well, and
don't be mean to these people.
Well, I mean, I think we can actually say there are no tenets of belief in atheism. It's not a belief system at all.
right.
But I think we can safely say that we all believe just don't be a dick to people. Ever. You don't ever have to be a
even
dick
if
to anybody.
they get some of this stuff wrong right now, they might still be clinging to a higher power or clinging to some pieces of their religion. They're trying. They're on their journey. Don't be mean.
You don't
My
have to
God.
be mean to anybody.
Right. Well, I will say there are times where you can be a dick, but it's to people who are being evil. It's to people who are being nasty, and it's to people who are people who are on the offensive and being shitty to other people.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Defending yourself and defending others is a perfectly reasonable time to be an asshole if you need to. But we're talking about people who are just peeking out of the closet. There are people, you don't know their circumstances. No. Maybe they're not out to their family as an atheist, or maybe they're not out to themselves as an atheist, or maybe they're not safe
Right.
to do it. So be patient, lend a fucking hand, throw a drowning man a rope rather than another bucket of water.
Yeah, and it's amazing what a little bit of kindness can do. And we talked the other day with the gentleman from Life After Hate.
Yeah.
And he told that incredible story about the woman at McDonald's who saw the swastika on the guy's hand and just said, "You're better than this."
Yeah.
That a little bit of kindness to people at their moments when they're first peeking out from behind the curtains of religion can go so far. So
Yeah, and so I want to finish with this kind of little anecdote. Funny, it occurred to me in the middle of the other night, to kind of talk about what I would love the larger skeptical world to be, rather than what it can be at its worst moment.
And since we are the leaders of the skeptical movement,
We are the popes,
and you have to do what we say.
Yes, you can't
listen carefully.
so let it be written.
You can't hear the white smoke coming from out of Dan's roof. But
My ass.
here in Salt Lake, we have a ton of people of Greek descent. And, growing up in what was a comparatively cold and austere and patrician Mormon, WASP Mormon household,
They're called wasms.
the Greek families seemed like a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I've gotten to know Greek families in a bunch of different cities around the world. And maybe everybody's experience with Greek families differs, but for the purpose of my metaphor, they're perfect. So
Okay.
I like to think of our skeptical community like I'm a Greek yaya. Right.
Oh.
And so the way I look at it is, if you're a lot of Greek, great. If you're a little Greek, that's fine too. If you're not Greek at all, come on in.
Right.
Right. So I think we can aspire to be a little bit more Greek.
I like that.
All right. I guess that's a good place to leave it. Go out and hug your yaya, and and don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
All right. That's a good start.
Moving on.